Joined by Democrat strategist and former member of the Obama campaign, Spencer Critchley. Spencer, thanks for being here on the Chirs Salcedo Show.
Happy to join you, Chris.
First question on the box. What do you make about this dust-up between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders? For those who don't remember, Elizabeth Warren has accused Bernie Sanders of saying that a woman couldn't win the presidency. What is your take on this back and forth?
You know, I'm disappointed in Elizabeth Warren for bringing this up. It was a private conversation, and it leaves us in this position of trying to decide who said what when we have no way of knowing. And it also strikes me as really small ball to be debating in the middle of a primary campaign with so much at stake. The topic, of course, of gender equality is a big topic, but this is like a dispute between two people in a private conversation. Maybe Bernie said something like that. It sounds out of character for him since he has been arguing for equal rights for women for many, many years. You know, it's possible he said something like women face a tougher battle than men do, and I think that's just a fact that's kind of hard to dispute.
Yeah, there have been many on the hard left who have said, hey, this is just the Democrat establishment going after Bernie again. I think everybody concedes that Mr. Sanders had a pretty rough go with the establishment in 2016. And many are saying this is just more evidence of the establishment trying to kneecap this guy who's getting, just as he's getting a lot of momentum on the campaign trail.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's clear from the emails we saw from Debbie Wasserman Schultz and others at the DNC that they weren't necessarily great big fans of Bernie Sanders back then, but I think that their influence over the primary has been greatly exaggerated. They really didn't have anything like the control over the primary process that people think they did, despite whatever their personal feelings were about him. Also, I think, you know, on the very hard left, we have a similar problem that we sometimes see on the hard right, which is this addiction to conspiracy theories. Not everything has to be a conspiracy. You know, I don't think there is a Democratic establishment that's trying to stop Bernie Sanders. Of course, there are moderate centrist Democrats who would prefer a different candidate, but I really don't see that there's some kind of conspiracy to kill his campaign. And I think that one of the weaknesses, unfortunately, of Democrats is they seem to love to form these circular firing squads and like nothing better than fighting with each other instead of, you know, facing the common foe. And I think, frankly, rest assured from Republicans.
Yeah, I was going to say, rest assured, the GOP has plenty of that going on themselves. After the last debate, this kind of surprised me. I was flipping around the dial and I was watching some of the other left-wing cable news channels, or the cable channels. And what I was seeing, pundits like Al Sharpton and others jumping out there saying they were very disappointed with this last debate. Some of them even going as far as saying they didn't see anybody on that debate stage that could beat President Donald Trump. What's your take on the current field?
I think we have a number of candidates who could beat President Trump as long as they just run a good campaign. I don't think that debate was terribly exciting, but I think it was substantive, and I think most of them did fairly well, and some of them had some strong moments. I think clearly President Trump is very much afraid of Joe Biden. I think there are some other candidates up there he should be afraid of, but it all depends on the Democrats running a campaign that puts together a winning coalition. And you hear all kinds of people offering authoritative opinions that are not necessarily based on any real political experience. And I think what this is going to come down to is going to be the winning of the swing states that we needed to win last time, and we didn't win some of those states, and that was fatal for the Hillary campaign. I think this time we have to make absolutely sure we have a campaign that addresses voters in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the industrial Midwest. It's just crucial. It doesn't really matter if you get additional voters on the coast of California or in New York City or in other urban centers that are very likely to vote Democratic. And that doesn't mean that we need to only pander to one group of voters, but it also means we need to make sure we're not overlooking them and make sure that we put together that winning coalition that can actually win an election. And frankly, this sniping I'm describing is an example of how Democrats sometimes defeat themselves. You know, there are lots and lots of reasons why Hillary lost in 2016, but one of them is just this internecine sniping that we see, unfortunately, on the Democratic side.
Right. And of course, Democrats have made this this meme that has been carrying over for now decades, that the Republican Party is the party that hates people of color. And Seth Meyers, one of the microphones, or megaphones, I should say, for the Democrat Party, came out just last night basically criticizing the Republican Party. However, for their lack of diversity, he had to overlook, though, an all-white, all-rich, all-far-left Democrat Party that was debating the other night to make these criticisms against the Republicans. This narrative that comes out that the Democrat Party is supposed to be the party of diversity, yet all you got is white candidates there on that stage, that's going to be a double-edged sword, is it not?
I don't think so. I mean, first of all, I certainly challenge the assertion that that's a far-left group of candidates. You have people like Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg up there or Amy Klobuchar. They basically line up with Dwight Eisenhower, who is a Republican, or what used to be called Rockefeller Republicans.
Really? Well, I can't let that. Wait a minute. I can't let that go. Dwight Eisenhower would never have signed on to government control over health care. Never in a million years.
Ronald Reagan was open to ideas like that. It's amazing how many of these policies that are now characterized as far left used to be centrist. For example, the Republican Party used to be in favor of a universal basic income, which now seems like quite a radical idea coming out of the mouth of Andrew Yang. There's been quite a rightward shift there. I'd also point out that every other developed country in the world has universal health care, and the United States is alone in not having that and has far higher costs with worse results for the average person.
Actually, you and I could do a whole show on and debating the statistics on that one. I want to get into some more substance here about the FISA court. Look, with the Inspector General report that came out, there was a lot of malfeasance that had been undertaken by the FBI and the acquisition of these surveillance warrants in the FISA court. The Republicans are now out there saying, look, there's got to be some form of punishment for those who lie to the FISA court. And I would hope the Democrat Party would be out there saying, yeah, you know what, because it could be us the next time on the receiving end of this. But why are no Democrats out there saying, yeah, there's got to be some sort of consequence when you lie to a FISA court?
Oh, no, there absolutely are. I think this is one of the things that concerns me most about the current political moment. There are conservatives, there are liberals, there are Republicans, there are Democrats who absolutely support the rule of law. And yeah, it looks like there were some abuses committed by the FBI here that were found by the Inspector General. And I think if you check the record, you'll find there are many Democrats, including me, saying, of course, we should respect the law in cases like this. And Christopher Wray, the FBI director, has issued a long list of actions that he's going to take to correct those mistakes and abuses. And I think we all totally support that. Let me also say, though,
actions is one thing.
Beside the point as to what the Inspector General, his main finding was that this whole conspiracy theory that this was somehow, Crossfire Hurricane was somehow based on the Carter Page surveillance is false. And he explicitly found there was no evidence of political bias in the instantiation of that investigation. It's impossible.
No, he found, well, hold on, just to correct the record here.
The timeline doesn't make any sense. There's Carter Page,
just to correct the record on that.
The investigation started in July.
Yeah, just to correct the record on that, nobody came up to him and said that we did this out of political bias. However, Mr. Durham might be uncovering some things in that regard. But what I want to focus on,
I'm sure Attorney General Barr desperately hopes he will, but not so far.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But what I'm trying to focus in on is punishment. If you and I lie to a judge anywhere in this country, you and I are going to have some serious consequences to pay. Why do Democrats believe the FBI should be immune from those consequences?
They don't.
Simply because they were doing it. Well, I haven't heard any elected Democrat come up and join Republicans calling for accountability in the FISA court.
Say, Google it. Of course they do. This, as I was saying, this is one of the most upsetting things about this political moment. We're having what's characterized as a left-right partisan debate. It's not. It's, are we in favor of the rule of law or not? There's no credible Democrat who is arguing that people who break the law should get off scot-free. That's exactly what we're arguing about in this impeachment case.
Well,
and
Mr. Critchley, just tell me the name of
conservatives on the same side.
Right. Well, just tell me the name of one Democrat who has publicly called out, like Republicans have, for accountability for those who lied to a FISA court.
I'm trying to think of one who hasn't. I mean, if this comes up, you'll find they'll all say, of course. I mean, the FBI agent who appears to have committed the most serious infraction where it appears that he falsified one of these applications has been referred for criminal referral, and nobody's objecting to that.
Yeah, and Mr. Critchley, I got to cut it off there. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate your time here on the Chirs Salcedo Show. More to come here, folks, on the program.